Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Kari's Confessions, a nonprofit exec tells all. I'm Kari Anderson, your host and principal with Incite Consulting. My podcast explores the tools and strategies that help nonprofit leaders grow their impact and build resilient organizations. As always, I'm here to share some hard-earned lessons and honest truths from life inside the nonprofit world. Today, we're going to talk about making your budget a trust asset. So for those of you new to the podcast, I spent 25 plus years in the nonprofit sector in leadership roles with 7 organizations. Now I provide coaching and consulting services to ensure that nonprofits, like yours, have the structure, systems, and practices to do your best work. Wherever I go, I continue to hear that nonprofit execs need a space to gather, to receive tools, feedback, and advice that encourages them to stay the course. Doesn't matter if you're in a village of 182 or a metropolis of millions. Nonprofit work is both gratifying and lonely. I'm here to make sure that you have a chance to breathe, laugh, and smirk, and hopefully get excited again about the important work that you do. So, confession time. Most nonprofit leaders I talk to have said some version of this. We keep the budget private because we don't want people to misunderstand it. And honestly, I get it. You're trying to protect your staff from worry, your donors from confusion, your board from unnecessary noise. Your intentions are good, but here's the uncomfortable truth, and this is the confession part. Your budget isn't private. It's already being seen, already being sensed, already being interpreted. The only real question is whether you want that interpretation to be accurate. Because when you treat your budget like a secret, a la not putting your 990 on your website, for example, people don't stop thinking about it. They just start guessing. And guessing is where trust erodes. Today, we're going to talk about financial transparency, not as a compliance requirement, because it is, not as a donor checkbox, but as a leadership tool. Specifically, why keeping budgets private backfires, what transparency actually means and what it absolutely does not, what donors and staff really want to know, what to share publicly versus internally, and the most common transparency mistakes I see leaders make. Every day, I made them too. I'll also give you a practical 30-day plan to turn your budget into a trust asset. So let's get into it. Why does keeping the budget private backfire? Here's the thing no one really says out loud in nonprofits. A private budget is mostly an illusion. Even if you never post a full spreadsheet anywhere, pieces of the financial story leak out all the time. Board decks get forwarded, grant proposals get shared with partners, and they do. Donors reference a shortfall or a new initiative in conversation. Staff notice a hiring pause, a canceled program, a delayed reimbursement. So yes, the spreadsheet may be locked down, but the story is already circulating, just not in a way you control. And the hidden cost of secrecy isn't silence. It's what people fill in when they don't have context or when there's a vacuum. When staff don't understand the financial picture, they may assume instability, favoritism, or mismanagement. When donors don't understand your cost structure, they may assume inefficiency or diluted impact. Then leadership ends up spending time untangling knots that they never needed to form in the first place. Here's the core idea I want you to hear from me today. Financial transparency is not a chore, it's a trust strategy. And when it's done well, it makes your organization easier to fund and easier to lead. And honestly, easier to work for. So, what does financial transparency actually mean anyway? I want to clear this up. Financial transparency does not mean posting your entire budget online. In plain language, transparency means this: sharing timely, understandable, and consistent financial information with the people who rely on it. Different audiences need different depth, but everyone needs clarity. Transparency usually includes things like your budget priorities and how they connect to mission, your revenue mix, grants, individuals, contracts, events, earned income, major expense categories and what they enable in a good way, reserves, runway, and sustainability goals at a high level, restricted versus unrestricted funding and why that matters, how financial decisions get made. Transparency does not mean publishing every line item for public debate, exposing individual salaries or donor identities, sharing sensitive legal or competitive information, turning every staff meeting into a budgeting free-for-all. Here's the mindset shift for you. The goal isn't oversharing. The goal is confidence. People don't trust you because you show them everything. They trust you because what you share is consistent, credible, and understandable. That's what turns your budget into a trust asset. So why does money opacity trigger doubt so fast? So trust is built from three things: consistency, credibility, comprehension. Pick a topic, right? Not just budgets. These are the three components. And money opacity breaks comprehension first and fast. When people don't understand the financial picture, right? When we've made things as clear as glacial silt, they stop listening to facts and they start interpreting signals. And signals are easy to misread in nonprofits, especially with weird cash timing. Donors start worrying, will my gift actually matter? Are layoffs coming? Are leaders telling us the truth? Transparency reduces what I call interpretation risk. Let's make this concrete. So, version A, opaque leadership. We're implementing a hiring freeze. There's no context, there's no timeline, there's no rationale. Within a week, we're running out of money. Leadership is protecting their salaries. Layoffs are coming. Now, version B, with transparent leadership, we're pausing hiring for 60 days because a major grant is on reimbursement. Cash is tight, not the annual budget. Here's our runway, here's the plan, and here's what would change that decision. So this is the same decision, but it's a completely different trust outcome. So what do donors actually want to know about your budget anyway? Donors fund outcomes, but they evaluate stewardship. Even your most relational donors are quietly asking, where does the money go? Is leadership competent? Will my gift be used as promised? So donor transparency isn't about charts. It's about calmly, consistently answering those questions. So here are the 5 things that donors really want. They want mission-aligned priorities. What wins when you have to choose? They want cost structure with context, not shame, not an explanation. They want results to resources story. How does money become an outcome? They want to know that risk management is being adhered to, what could go wrong, and what you're doing about it. And they want learning and adaptation because honesty builds credibility. And please hear this. Stop already apologizing for your admin line item. Admin is often capacity. Capacity is how you deliver mission safely, consistently, and at scale. Reliability costs money. I'm talking about you, right? Reliability costs money. That's not a flaw, that's stewardship. So how can we be transparent with staff without dumping stress? So staff always will interpret silence as danger. When people don't understand constraints, they assume every hard decision is personal. Good transparency supports psychological safety. What staff usually want to know isn't complicated. How much runway do we have? How reliable is revenue? Especially if they're not in charge of finances or fundraising, right? This is important for program and admin staff. What's changing this quarter? What are the priorities? A simple internal dashboard can answer that, right? Revenue versus plan, expense burn, cash and runway, top risks and mitigations, decision triggers. One important nuance: transparency is not burden shifting. Dumping scary numbers without direction is not leadership. It's a stress transfer. Please don't do it. So use ranges, use scenarios, explain trade-offs. That's how you reduce rumor-driven anxiety. Now, what to share publicly versus internally? People, I want you to share your 990 on your website, right? It's public information, but this is a little more than that 990. If transparency feels scary, hopefully this helps. External transparency is about confidence. So, what are some examples of that? high-level budget summary, revenue mix, program allocation, again, those audited financials in 990s, your reserve policy at a high level. That's for your external transparency. Internal transparency is about clarity, budget versus actuals, cash flow and runway, scenario plans, staffing assumptions, timing issues, and yes, there are real exceptions: client safety, donor privacy, legal matters, competitive grant strategy. Transparency is not a blanket policy. It's a thoughtful system. So I made transparency mistakes. I'm going to share them with you so you ideally don't do the same thing I did. I'll name the big ones. Data dumps with no interpretation. Oh my heavens, I was a pro at this for a long time. I didn't add a short narrative. That would have helped, right? Narratives would include what changed, why, and what it means. Only sharing when things are bad. No, we need to share all the time. So we need to create a steady cadence so updates feel normal and not scary. Another mistake, over-indexing on overhead ratios. So your job is to pair financials with outcomes and sustainability. Also, because I'm known to be a Pollyanna, for years I painted too rosy of a picture. No, transparency means we need to practice realistic confidence, naming risks. And we cannot hide behind finance jargon. I'll tell you, that's the number one reason that staff and boards don't understand our financial picture is because we speak in tongues. Plain language is a leadership skill. So I promise you a 30-day plan. Here it is. First of all, this isn't a rebrand of perhaps messy habits or no habits that you currently have. This is a habit. It's a new habit to form. Week 1, I want you to define 5 to 7 trust metrics. These could look like aligning with the board and also writing a 1-paragraph financial narrative of your current organization. Week 2, create 2 simple tools: a 1-page external financial and impact snapshot and a 1-page internal staff dashboard. Week 3, launch a sustainable cadence: quarterly donor update, monthly internal update. Week 4, collect feedback, refine language, document the process. Small nonprofits can do this beautifully with 1 page and consistency. So here's the bottom line. Your budget's already being interpreted. If you don't shape the narrative, someone else will, usually with less information and more anxiety. When you choose transparency, you reduce fear, you increase generosity, you strengthen team cohesion, you make it easier for people to see how their work and their giving matter. If you want a simple place to start, publish 1 clear financial snapshot this month. 1 page, plain language, no defensiveness. Then commit to a predictable rhythm. That's just not good communication. That's leadership. And that was today's confession. Thanks again for joining me. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a colleague or a board director, and make sure to follow me on your favorite streaming platforms. For additional resources and tools, follow me on LinkedIn. You can also check out my website at inciteconsultinggroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.